Here's a man who has told more people no to their faces than arguably anyone else alive on this planet. And yet, when it comes to cars, Simon Cowell cannot stop saying yes. We are talking about a collection so jaw-dropping, so outrageously expensive, that it makes his Malibu mansion look like a budget purchase. Hi, my name is Johnny, and this is American Muscle, the channel where we pull back the curtain on the most extraordinary car collections on the planet. Number 10. Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. The Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. And not just any Silver Shadow. Simon's example is a beautifully preserved classic from the 1970s, finished in a shade of white that looks like it was designed specifically to make people stop and stare on the streets of London. Now let me put this into perspective for you. The Silver Shadow was the car that changed everything for Rolls-Royce when it was introduced back in 1965. It was the first Rolls-Royce to feature a unitary body construction, replacing the traditional separate chassis that the company had used for decades. It was revolutionary, it was elegant, and it was exactly the kind of statement piece that a young, ambitious Simon Cowell would have been drawn to. The Silver Shadow runs on a 6.75-liter V8 engine, a number you are going to hear again in this video because Rolls-Royce stuck with that engine for a very long time, and for very good reason. It produces around 189 horsepower, which by today's standards sounds modest. But this was never a car built for speed. It was built for presence. It was built to announce your arrival before you even stepped out of it. Simon has spoken in interviews about his love for classic British engineering, and the Silver Shadow is the purest expression of that. Values for well-preserved examples today sit anywhere between $40,000 and $100,000, depending on condition and provenance. It may be the least expensive car in this collection, but do not underestimate it. Every great collection needs a foundation. This is Simon's. Number 9. Bugatti Veyron. Here is where things start to get seriously interesting. Because when Simon Cowell decides to upgrade from a classic Rolls-Royce, he does not go halfway. He does not ease into it. He goes straight to one of the most technically complex and breathtakingly fast road cars ever built, the Bugatti Veyron. I have to be honest with you here. When I first started researching Simon's collection and I came across this car, I actually laughed. Not because it is funny, but because of course, Simon Cowell owns a Bugatti Veyron. Of course he does. The Veyron, when it launched in 2005, was unlike anything the automotive world had ever seen. Bugatti engineers crammed an 8-liter W16 engine under that iconic horseshoe grille. And just to make absolutely sure nobody missed the point, they bolted 4 turbochargers onto it. 4. The result was 1,001 horsepower, at a time when most supercars were celebrating reaching 500 horsepower. Bugatti had simply doubled it, and added one for good measure. Simon's example is finished in a deep black exterior with a contrasting silver roof, understated by Veyron standards, which is saying something. The Veyron sprints from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 2.5 seconds and hits a top speed of 253 miles per hour. When it was released, it was the fastest production car on Earth. Let that sink in for a moment. The fastest car on the planet. Sitting in Simon Cowell's garage in Malibu. Original MSRP on the Veyron sat at $1,670,000. Today, well-maintained examples regularly fetch between $1.5 and $2.5 million at auction. Not bad for a car that Simon probably uses to nip to the shops. At least, that is what we imagine. Number 8. A's Porsche 911 Turbo. Now here is a car that might surprise you, given what we have already seen, because compared to a Bugatti Veyron, a Porsche 911, Turbo might seem almost, and I want to stress the word almost, ordinary. But nothing in Simon Cowell's collection is ordinary. And this 911 is no exception. Simon's 911. Turbo is a modern generation example, finished in Guards Red, a color so deeply associated with Porsche that it feels like it was invented specifically for this car. And in a collection full of flashy, headline-grabbing machinery, there is something fascinating about the fact that Simon keeps coming back to the 911, because that is exactly what Porsche owners do. They come back. The 911 Turbo is powered by a 3.8-liter twin-turbocharged flat-six engine producing 572 horsepower. It launches from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 2.7 seconds and carries a top speed of 198 miles per hour. What makes the 911 Turbo genuinely remarkable is not just the raw numbers. It is the fact that you can drive it to a dinner party, park it, have a completely civilized evening, and then, on the way home, remind yourself why it is one of the greatest driving machines ever created. Priced at around $220,000 in its current specification, the 911 Turbo is arguably the bargain of Simon's collection. Relatively speaking, of course. And look, I know calling a $220,000 car a bargain is a sentence that only makes sense in the context of this particular video, but here we are. Number 7. Ferrari 458 Italia. If you have ever watched Simon Cowell on television and thought to yourself, this man has the energy of someone who just got out of a Ferrari, well, you were not wrong. Because sitting in Simon's garage is one of the most universally praised Ferraris of the modern era, the Ferrari 458 Italia. Now, Ferrari has produced some truly iconic cars over the decades. The 308, the 355, the 360 Modena. But when the 458 Italia arrived in 2009, the automotive press lost their collective minds. And rightly so. This was Ferrari operating at the absolute peak of its powers before the inevitable march towards turbocharging and hybridization changed the game forever. The 458 Italia is powered by a naturally aspirated 4.5-liter 5.8 engine. And the reason that matters, the reason every petrolhead on Earth lights up when you mention this engine, is the sound. The 458 screams. It howls. At 9,000 revolutions per minute, it produces 562 horsepower, and it does so while making a noise that sounds less like a car engine and more like an orchestra tuning up for the most dramatic performance of its life. Simon's example is finished in classic Rosso Corsa, Ferrari Red, because when you buy a Ferrari and you do not order it in red, somewhere in Maranello, a single engineer sheds a quiet tear. 0 to 60 comes in 3.4 seconds. Top speed sits at 210 miles per hour. Original MSRP was $230,000, and today pristine examples fetch anywhere between $180,000 and $250,000. This is the car in Simon's collection that driving enthusiasts would fight each other to borrow, and we would not blame them for a single second. Number 6. Bentley Mulsanne.
Most are, given that it weighs 2.6 tons.
You knew there was going to be a Bentley in here. You just knew it, because there are certain men on this earth for whom a Bentley is not a luxury. It is a personality requirement, and Simon Cowell is absolutely one of those men. The Bentley Mulsanne is the flagship model of the entire Bentley range. This is not the Continental GT that you see parked outside restaurants in Beverly Hills. The Mulsanne is the serious one, the one that says, I did not just make money, I made generational change your family tree forever money. Simon's Mulsanne is finished in onyx black with a linen interior, and if you have never sat inside a Bentley Mulsanne, I need you to understand something. The interior of this car contains more handcrafted hours than most furniture you will ever own in your entire life. Bentley's craftsmen spend over 400 hours on the interior of each Mulsanne. Every stitch is placed by hand. The wood veneers are individually selected. It is less of a car and more of a rolling declaration of intent. Under that long, imposing bonnet sits a 6.75-liter twin-turbocharged V8 engine. And there is that number again, producing 505 horsepower and a simply outrageous 752 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 in just 4.9 seconds. Top speed 184 miles per hour. For a car that weighs over 2.5 tons, those numbers are nothing short of miraculous. MSRP on the Mulsanne sat at $340,000. Simon's personalized specification, and you can be absolutely certain it was personalized, would have pushed that considerably higher. This is the car Simon reportedly uses when he wants to arrive somewhere and make absolutely sure that everyone in the room already knows he has arrived before he walks through the door. which, if you know Simon Cowell, sounds exactly right. Number 5. Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren. Halfway through this list, and we have already seen classics, supercars, and ultimate luxury saloons. But now, we arrive at a car that sits in a category almost entirely of its own, the Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren. And if the name alone does not make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, let me give you a moment to appreciate what this car actually represents. The SLR McLaren was a joint project between two of the most storied names in automotive history, Mercedes-Benz and McLaren. Developed together in the early 2000s and built at the McLaren Technology Centre in Woking, England, it was the automotive equivalent of forming a supergroup. You take the engineering excellence of Mercedes, combine it with the racing pedigree of McLaren, and what you get is something that feels genuinely otherworldly. Simon's SLR McLaren is finished in a stunning silver, appropriate given the car's initial stand for Sport Light Rennsport, which translates roughly to Sport Light Racing. And it features those iconic carbon fiber side exhausts that exit just in front of the rear wheels with a crack that could wake the neighbors 3 streets over. The engine is a 5.4-liter supercharged V8 producing 617 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, top speed 208 miles per hour. But the number that really matters here is the original purchase price, $455,000. Today, low-mileage examples of the SLR McLaren regularly achieve between $600,000 and $900,000 at auction, making it one of the quietly appreciating assets in Simon's already remarkable collection. Not bad for a car that doubles as a piece of automotive art. Number 4. Lamborghini Aventador. We are in the top 4 now, and the cars from this point forward are operating on a completely different level. Because if Simon Cowell is going to own a Lamborghini, and of course he owns a Lamborghini, it is not going to be anything subtle. It is going to be the Aventador. The car that looks like it was designed by someone who was told the brief was, draw something that a 10-year-old would design and then make it real. I mean that as the highest possible compliment. The Lamborghini Aventador is powered by a 6.5-liter naturally aspirated V12 engine, mounted in the middle of the car because Lamborghini understands drama, producing 730 horsepower in the L P740S specification. It screams to a top speed of 217 miles per hour and gets from 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. The noise this engine makes at full throttle is genuinely one of the greatest sounds that human beings have ever engineered. It is barbaric, it is theatrical, it is completely unnecessary, it is perfect. Simon's Aventador is finished in pearl white, a color that on most cars would look conservative, but on a Lamborghini Aventador looks like it was sent from the future. The scissor doors open upward at the push of a button, and every single person within 50 meters stops whatever they are doing, every time. Without exception, original MSRP on the Aventador LP740S sits at around $420,000. With Simon's specification, and this is a man who does not do standard specification, the real number was likely considerably north of that. This is the car in Simon's collection that his son Eric has probably already decided he wants when he turns 18. We cannot blame him. Number 3. Bugatti Chiron. Yes, he has 2 Bugattis. Of course he does. Did you expect anything less from the man who once said he does not really think about money? When you have a Veyron and Bugatti releases its successor, you do not sell the Veyron and upgrade. You keep the Veyron and buy the Chiron as well. That is apparently how Simon Cowell approaches automotive decisions. And honestly, we respect it enormously. The Bugatti Chiron arrived in 2016 as the successor to the Veyron, and it did something that most people genuinely believed was impossible. It made the Veyron look understated. The Chiron is powered by an 8-liter W16 engine, same architecture as the Veyron, but with 4 larger turbochargers and revised internals, producing 1,479 horsepower, nearly 1,500 horsepower, in a road car that you can drive to collect your dry cleaning. The The Chiron accelerates from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 2.4 seconds and has a top speed that Bugatti electronically limits to 261 miles per hour. Not because it cannot go faster, but because the tires do not yet exist that could safely handle what this engine is capable of at full chat. That detail alone should tell you everything you need to know about the Chiron. Simon's Chiron is finished in a two-tone combination of dark blue and silver, a specification that required Bugatti's personalization team, La Maison pour Sang, and cost considerably more than the already eye-watering base price. That base price, by the way, is $3 million. $3 million. And there is a waiting list. Simon reportedly waited over a year for delivery, which for a man famously short on patience must have been absolutely excruciating. Current auction values for early Chiron examples sit between $3.5 and $4.5 million. This is automotive royalty, full stop. Number 2, Rolls-Royce Phantom. We have reached number 2, and the energy shifts completely, because after the V12 thunder of the Aventador and the twin-turbo insanity of the Chiron, we arrive at a car that does not need to shout, does not need to scream, does not need to do anything dramatic at all, because when you own a Rolls-Royce Phantom, the car makes its statement simply by existing. The Rolls-Royce Phantom is not just the flagship of the Rolls-Royce range, it is the definitive statement of automotive luxury on Earth. Full stop. There is no argument. There is no debate. This is the car that heads of state ride in, that royalty commissions, that the most powerful people on the planet choose when they need the world to understand, without a single word being spoken, exactly who they are. Simon's Phantom is an 8th-generation example, the model that launched in 2017 on an all-new aluminum space frame architecture, finished in a bespoke color that Rolls-Royce created specifically for him, because that is what Rolls-Royce does for customers at this level. They do not show you a color chart. They ask you what you want, and then they create it. The Phantom runs on a 6.75-liter twin-turbocharged V12 engine producing 563 horsepower and 664 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. But as we discussed with the Silver Shadow, nobody buys a Phantom to go fast. They buy it to arrive. The interior of Simon's Phantom features what Rolls-Royce calls the gallery dashboard, a sealed glass case running the full width of the cabin, behind which a bespoke art installation was created. In Simon's case, the dashboard contains a hand-assembled composition of musical notes and recording equipment references, a nod to the empire he built. Because when you commission a Rolls-Royce Phantom, you do not just order a car, you order a piece of yourself. Base price on the 8th generation, Phantom starts at $450,000. With Simon's level of personalization, the real figure almost certainly exceeded $600,000. This is a car worthy of the number 2 spot in any collection on Earth. Number 1, the McLaren F1. And here we are, the moment you have been waiting for. The car that sits at the very top of Simon Cowell's collection. The car that makes everything else, the Chiron, the Phantom, the Aventador, look like supporting acts, which, given that this is Simon Cowell's collection, feels entirely appropriate. The McLaren F1. Now, if you have watched our videos before, you already know about this car, but for those of you just joining us, let me tell you what the McLaren F1 is, because there is no car in the history of automotive engineering that deserves more time and reverence than this one. Gordon Murray designed the McLaren F1 in the early 1990s with a single, uncompromising objective: to build the greatest road car ever made. Not the most luxurious, not the most comfortable, the greatest. And what he created was so far ahead of everything else that it held the title of fastest production car on Earth for 12 consecutive years. 12 years. From 1993 to 2005. In the automotive world, that is not a record. That is a dynasty. The F1 is powered by a 6.1-liter BMWS 70/2 V12 engine producing 618 horsepower. It weighs just 1,014 kilograms, less than many modern hatchbacks. Because Murray obsessed over every single gram during its construction. He famously used a gold-lined engine bay because gold is the most effective material for reflecting heat. On a road car, in the early 1990s, extraordinary does not begin to cover it. The McLaren F1 has a 3-seat layout with the driver positioned in the center, because Murray decided that symmetry and outward visibility mattered more than convention. Top speed is 240 miles per hour. 0 to 60 comes in 3.2 seconds. Only 106 road cars were ever built. Simon Cowell's F1 is finished in a stunning magnesium silver finish and is believed to be one of the lowest mileage examples in private hands. The car was acquired through a private sale, and the exact figure was never disclosed publicly. However, let me give you some context. A McLaren F1 in good condition sold at auction in 2021 for $20.4 million. The specific example that Rowan Atkinson, yes, Mr. Bean, owned sold for $12.2 million. Low mileage, immaculately preserved examples like Simon's are currently valued by specialists at between $15 and $25 million. $25 million for a car. And here's the thing about Simon Cowell owning a McLaren F1 that makes complete, perfect, absolute sense. Simon Cowell has spent his entire career identifying talent that is so far ahead of everything else in the room that comparison feels almost insulting. He found it in music, he found it in television, and somewhere along the way, he found it in a 1993 British supercar that Gordon Murray designed to be the greatest of all time. Simon recognized it immediately, because that is what Simon Cowell does. He knows the best when he sees it, and he does not let it go. And that is the collection. From a 1970s Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow all the way to a McLaren F1 worth potentially $25 million, Simon Cowell has built something that is not just a car collection. It is a statement. It is a philosophy. It is the automotive equivalent of everything this man has ever stood for. Uncompromising, expensive, and absolutely impossible to ignore. Now, we want to hear from you. Which car in Simon's collection would you take for a drive if he somehow handed you the keys? Drop it in the comments below. And if your answer is anything other than the McLaren F1, we genuinely want to understand your reasoning. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button because we are just getting started. There are collections out there that will make Simon Cowell's garage look modest, and we are going to cover every single one of them right here on American Muscle. Johnny out.